Do you use Tap to Pay or carry a debit card? If so, you need to hear this warning. Imagine checking your balance and realizing hundreds, even thousands, of dollars are gone, even though your card never left your pocket. No PIN entered. No purchase you remember making. No clear moment when anything went wrong. This isn't the kind of scam most people expect. There's no fake email, no suspicious phone call, and nothing that immediately sets off alarm bells. In many cases, everything feels normal until it doesn't. Today, we're breaking down 15 tap-to-pay scams spreading right now, how they work, and what most people miss, so you don't become the next target. Let's get started. Scam 1. Wireless contactless card skimming. This is the foundation of most tap-to-pay fraud, and it's also the hardest for victims to recognize. Criminals use small RFID or NFC readers to pull data from contactless cards without ever touching them. Your card stays inside your wallet or pocket the entire time, which is why so many people don't believe it's possible until it happens to them. All the scammer needs is proximity for a few seconds. Crowded places like public transit, malls, sidewalks, elevators, and events make this easy. You don't feel anything. There's no vibration, no alert, and no failed transaction. From your perspective, nothing happens at all. The stolen data is rarely used immediately. Criminals often wait days or weeks before testing the card with small purchases or selling the information to other fraud groups. This delay makes it harder for victims to trace the fraud back to a specific location. Because debit cards link directly to your bank account, even a handful of unauthorized charges can escalate quickly before you realize what's happening. Scam 2. Crowded public transit skimming. Public transportation is one of the most common environments for contactless skimming because it offers constant access to large numbers of potential victims. During rush hour, people are packed tightly together, distracted, and focused on getting to work or home. Authorities have uncovered organized groups operating on buses, trains, and subways using concealed readers hidden inside backpacks, purses, or jackets. These devices are activated only for short periods, making them difficult to detect. Victims later notice unfamiliar tap-to-pay charges but can't connect them to any specific moment or interaction. The scam works because nothing visibly happens. There's no terminal, no fake machine, and no direct contact. Just a crowded commute and stolen data. By the time the fraud appears, the scammer is long gone, and the victim is left wondering how their card information was compromised during what felt like an ordinary ride. Scam 3. Retail checkout line skimming. Z-retail checkout lines create perfect conditions for contactless skimming. People stand close together, shuffle forward slowly, and focus on the register, their phone, or the items they're buying instead of their surroundings. Scammers blend in as ordinary shoppers. They don't rush. They don't act suspiciously. While you wait, a concealed reader scans nearby cards without you realizing it. By the time you pay for your purchase and leave the store, the damage may already be done. Holiday shopping seasons are especially risky. Crowds are larger, spending is higher, and people are less likely to notice small fraudulent charges mixed in with legitimate purchases. Victims often discover the fraud weeks later, after reviewing a statement or receiving a low balance alert. In Europe, fraud attempts rose 18% year over year, with checkout line skimming flagged as a growing concern. At that point, connecting the scam to a specific store or moment becomes nearly impossible. Scam 4. Festival, concert, and event skimming. Large events are prime targets for tap-to-pay fraud because they combine everything scammers look for in one place. Crowds are dense, people are distracted, and contactless payments are happening non-stop. Whether it's a music festival, a concert, a sporting event, or a convention, criminals know they can blend in easily without drawing attention. Law enforcement has linked clusters of tap-to-pay scams directly to large events, where attack rates are estimated at 3.3% of all transactions worldwide, making them one of the highest risk environments for cardholders. Victims often don't realize anything is wrong until days later, when unfamiliar tap-to-pay transactions appear on their bank statements. By that point, the event is over and the scammers have moved on. Alcohol and excitement also play a role. People are less guarded about personal space, less likely to notice someone standing too close, and less likely to check their accounts immediately afterward. That delay gives scammers time to test cards, make small purchases, or sell stolen data before the victim even suspects a problem. Scam 5. Fake tap-to-pay payment terminals. This scam is especially dangerous because it involves a real transaction. Criminals use modified contactless payment terminals that process legitimate payments while secretly storing card data in the background. From the customer's perspective, everything works exactly as it should. These fake or compromised terminals have been reported at pop-up shops, temporary kiosks, food trucks, street vendors, and event booths. Customers tap their card, see the payment approved, receive their item, and leave without any reason to suspect fraud. The terminal looks normal, the receipt looks normal, and the interaction feels routine. Later, the stored card data is used for unauthorized purchases or sold to other fraud groups. Because the original payment was real, victims rarely connect later fraud to that moment. By the time suspicious charges appear, the vendor may no longer exist, making investigation and recovery much more difficult. With over 64% of in-person transactions worldwide now contactless, the attack surface for this type of fraud has expanded dramatically. Banks in the U.S. and Europe report a double-digit rise in tap-to-pay reader fraud in 2025, and global payment fraud losses exceeded $38 to $50 billion last year, with device-based skimming and fake terminals contributing significantly. Scam 6. Restaurant tableside contactless fraud. Tableside payment devices are designed for convenience, but in isolated cases they've been exploited for contactless fraud. Compromised handheld terminals can capture additional card data while still processing legitimate payments. The transaction goes through normally. The card never leaves the customer's sight. There's no suspicious error message, no declined charge, and no visible tampering. That's what makes this scam so effective. Customers leave believing everything is fine. Victims usually don't notice anything wrong until unauthorized tap-to-pay charges appear later, often from places they've never visited. Because dining out is such a routine activity, it's difficult to pinpoint where the compromise occurred. Authorities stress that while most restaurants are legitimate, this scam shows how even trusted environments can be exploited when payment devices are compromised behind the scenes. Scam 7. Small tap-to-pay test charge scams. This is one of the most overlooked tap-to-pay scams and one of the most effective. After stealing card data, scammers don't immediately drain the account. Instead, they run very small tap-to-pay transactions, often just a few dollars or less. These test charges are carefully chosen to stay under fraud alert thresholds. Victims ignore them, assume they're rounding errors, or think they're forgotten purchases. Some don't notice them at all. Once the card is confirmed active, scammers either increase the frequency of charges, raise the amounts, or sell the data to other criminals. Over time, these small transactions can quietly drain an account. Because the fraud happens gradually, victims often don't realize what's happening until significant money is already gone, especially when debit cards are involved, since debit fraud losses rose 16% in 2025, with test charges cited as a common entry point. Scam 8. Mobile wallet exploitation scams. Mobile wallets are generally considered secure, but they are not immune to exploitation. Their safety depends heavily on the device they're installed on and how that device is configured. Outdated phones, delayed security updates, unsecured NFC settings, or compromised apps can all create openings scammers know how to exploit. In some cases, criminals pair wireless skimming with phishing messages or malicious apps designed to harvest login credentials or intercept authentication codes. Once access is gained, scammers can initiate payments, add new devices, or link the wallet to other accounts. While this method is less common than basic card skimming, it often targets higher-value victims because mobile wallets are frequently connected to multiple cards and bank accounts. Security experts warn that convenience can lead to complacency. People trust mobile wallets and may not monitor activity as closely. That delay gives scammers time to move money, change settings, or escalate the attack before the victim realizes anything is wrong. Scam 9. QR code, tap to pay, redirection scams. QR code payment scams have surged because they blend seamlessly into everyday transactions. Criminals place fake QR codes over legitimate ones at parking meters, restaurant tables, kiosks, and retail counters. The victim scans the code, expecting a normal payment process. Instead, the code redirects them to a fake payment page designed to look like a tap-to-pay or mobile wallet interface. The page feels familiar, modern, and trustworthy. Victims enter payment details or authorize a transaction, believing they're paying a legitimate business. The money goes directly to the scammer. There's no merchant dispute, no product, and often no immediate sign anything went wrong. Because QR payments are still relatively new to many users, people are less skeptical. By the time the fraud is discovered, the payment is already complete and difficult to reverse, especially with debit cards. Scam 10. Fake contactless refund scams. Fake refund scams exploit confusion and urgency. Scammers contact victims claiming there was a problem with a recent tap-to-pay transaction and that a refund is owed. They insist the refund must be processed immediately to avoid complications. Victims are instructed to tap their card, scan a code, or authorize a transaction to receive the refund. In reality, no refund exists. The action sends real money from the victim to the scammer. The process feels legitimate because refunds are a normal part of retail transactions. Scammers use professional language, spoofed caller IDs, and fake confirmation screens to reinforce the illusion. Once the payment is authorized, it's often irreversible. Debit card users are hit hardest because the funds are withdrawn instantly, leaving little time to react before the money is gone. Scam 11. Account takeover. After contactless skimming. Contactless skimming is often just the first step. Criminals frequently combine skimmed card data with personal information obtained from unrelated data breaches, social media, or phishing attacks. With enough information, they can reset passwords, change account contact details, and lock victims out of their own bank accounts. Once inside, scammers may add new payment methods, transfer funds, or open additional accounts in the victim's name. Victims often realize something is wrong only after being unable to log in or noticing large withdrawals. At that point, the damage may already be extensive. What began as a quick, invisible tap-to-pay skim can escalate into full-scale identity theft, requiring months of effort to resolve. This escalation is why contactless fraud should never be dismissed as just a small charge. Scam 12. Hotel and resort, contactless skimming. Hotels and resorts concentrate large numbers of travelers, payment cards, and shared spaces into a single environment, which makes them attractive targets for contactless skimming. Lobbies, check-in lines, elevators, conference halls, and breakfast areas often place people close together for extended periods. That proximity is exactly what scammers rely on. Victims frequently report fraudulent tap-to-pay charges days after checking out. By then, they've traveled home, used their cards elsewhere, and have no clear memory of when the skimming might have happened. Travel also involves unfamiliar charges, such as room holds, resort fees, and dining expenses, which can cause small fraudulent transactions to blend in unnoticed. Some cases involve skimming near legitimate payment terminals, such as front desks or gift shops. Others rely entirely on proximity skimming in shared spaces, where criminals never interact with victims directly. Because nothing visibly suspicious happens at the time, these scams are rarely connected to the hotel until multiple guests report similar fraud patterns. Scam 13. ATM-adjacent contactless skimming. Even when an ATM itself hasn't been tampered with, scammers may still target people using it. ATM-adjacent contactless skimming relies on criminals standing close enough to skim tap-to-pay cards that remain inside wallets or pockets. While you're focused on the ATM screen, entering your PIN, or retrieving cash, your attention is diverted. That distraction gives scammers the opportunity they need. You don't have to tap your card. You don't even have to remove it. The reader simply captures data wirelessly. Victims often assume the ATM was compromised when fraudulent charges appear later. In reality, the skimming happened nearby, not inside the machine. This misunderstanding can delay reporting and investigation. Because there's no physical evidence left on the ATM, this type of scam is especially difficult for consumers to detect and for banks to trace back to a specific location. Scam 14. Subscription trap contactless charges. Subscription trap scams don't feel like scams at first. They quietly drain money over time through recurring contactless charges. Victims may not remember signing up, or they may have unknowingly agreed to a free trial that converted into a paid subscription. Because these charges are usually small and recurring, they often avoid triggering fraud alerts. A few dollars here and there doesn't raise immediate concern, especially when people are busy or traveling. Over weeks or months, however, those charges add up. Debit card users are especially vulnerable because the money is withdrawn directly from available funds. There's no credit buffer. By the time the pattern is noticed, significant amounts may already be gone. Victims often struggle to identify the source because subscription names can be vague or misleading, making cancellation and recovery more difficult. Scam 15. Organized crime contactless fraud networks. Many tap-to-pay scams are not isolated incidents carried out by individuals. Law enforcement reports increasingly link contactless fraud to organized crime networks operating across multiple cities or even countries. In these operations, data may be skimmed in one location, sold on underground markets, and used somewhere else entirely. This separation makes it harder to trace the fraud back to its origin. By the time victims report losses, the people who collected the data may be long gone. These groups adapt quickly. As banks improve security, criminals change tactics, using new devices, targeting new locations, and focusing on speed. Understanding that these scams are coordinated and deliberate helps explain why they're spreading so fast, and why awareness remains one of the strongest defenses available. The common thread across all 15 of these tap-to-pay scams is invisibility. Scammers rely on convenience, distraction, and trust. They count on people believing that contactless payments are automatically safe. Now that you understand how these scams work, you're already ahead of most users. Pay attention to small charges. Be cautious in crowded environments. Question unexpected refunds or payment requests. If this video helped you, consider subscribing for more scam awareness investigations like this. Staying informed is one of the most effective ways to stay protected. See you next time.